Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here on this edition of Talk Today. It's gloomy outside. The heart is probably heavy because who knows what's transpiring. But hey, let's hear from you so you can share with us. It's going to be open line until 1:30, and then our good friends from the HSC going to join us to talk about the IgG testing, the antibodies that we've been always asking about. Well, we're going to get some more information from them at 1:30. But until then, it'll be open line. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Let's give you some numbers so you have some options in order to share your thoughts with us today. 949-8037. 949-8037. If you're a non-flow subscriber, well, that's the number to call. If you can and you wish and you prefer, well, please. Flow makes it a toll-free call, 1-800-534-8255, 1-800-534-8255. The same number you'll use when you call in for the record will start tomorrow morning. So use it now to give us a shout and share with us. 1-800-534-8255 as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. It was a long weekend for some, not long enough. For others, it was a long weekend because we worked, because we anxious to get back to work, because we haven't been working for so long that everything just seems, like it's an element of despair. Well, I hope and trust and pray that as we get rolling again, that we'll be appreciative of what we have, where we are, and where we want to go. And with that in mind, I want to share with you some sentiments that were shared with us earlier. Recognizing that between now and November, there won't be any scheduled public holidays on the calendar here in our country, but the nationalities across the globe, many of whom have taken up residency here, have their own celebrations coming up. And one individual says, come September, as they look, at their own calendar, they get a chance to celebrate their people and their day as a way for them to recognize the importance of not just the laborer's contribution to society, to the people's sense of unification, to a semblance of what it means, to live in a country and recognize that the people of that country have a strong sense of identity and appreciation for who they are. And, every year around a certain time, they come together to celebrate not independence, not emancipation, but just, the people. What do we have here was the question. And what should we have if we don't have anything? One of the sort of members in the discussion said, "Okay, well, been living here for a few years. It's a great place, very you know much enjoy the opportunities, not just the financial, but to learn from other people and to learn here. But found two things challenging: such a rich, beautiful history and culture and people, but so difficult to find out more from the written record. What's available sometimes isn't, you know, really indicative of the beauty and the value of the people. And then even the oral history, well, that sometimes is being lost and sometimes has been, you know, not relayed as accurately. He gave us an example. If you were to ask, well, what's the story behind the record of 10 sales? Is it what we've been told, or is that just a nice fancy myth dressed up in recent times, presented in an academic way to appeal to a certain mindset? What about other wrecks around the area? What about the people who have, just while they were here, you know, doing things that would seem ordinary, but it isn't, given the scope of the success. Perhaps they were extraordinary. And then the other thing beyond that was the whole notion that if you look at all the holidays, is there anything that really celebrates its people? Well, what do you think? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. While you mull that over, perhaps you may have had an opportunity to listen to the Legislative Assembly while it was in session recently, or any of the times, in the last few months, the amount of sort of discord, as one individual put it, that seemingly comes, from the membership within the Legislative Assembly, that seemingly divide. And as one shared, is that to be expected, given that it's, a confrontational system that we have? The parliamentarians want to jockey, and one wants to seem to be more equipped and positioned and better able to lead, and the other wants to upset in order to be able to take the reins. Now, is that the best option? And then just recently, the idea of national identification cards, uh, is that timely and expense? Is it long overdue? Is it that what we're going to get going to mean, as many of you have shared, perhaps more privately than some perhaps would have expected? Another invasion of privacy without really accomplishing anything? Is it going to be like the license plates, where it was a great expenditure, but really no great merit? Or is there something, much more than we appreciate or recognize? Well, I can relay the sentiments that you express to us, with the intent that it may, as some have shared, gain traction and cause others to think and comment, or it could just fall on deaf ears, and you have only served the purpose as well. You've told somebody how you feel, so you don't need to worry anymore. Your conscience has been appeased. But at the end of the day, is that really beneficial? Well, share with us. It was a great weekend. It was time for some to reflect and to become, as one fellow shared with me not long ago, get to a point where you start now to rebuild, as it were, because the opportunities are literally on the table. So share with us 949-8037, or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255, and give us your feedback. Oh, the WhatsApp phone is available somewhere, so you could share your thoughts with us. 925-3261. Record a voice note. We'll play it if that's your choice. Type up something to share with us. We'll certainly, read it if that's your choice. The idea is to ensure that as we go about, and when we come back from this first break, we'll try to find a message that was sent to us, uh, discussing how disgusted the person had become with, almost overnight, a country that seemingly had an opportunity to appreciate its impact on the environment. The fact that For a very short time, the air was clean and crisp again, and for those who were conscious of it, could immediately see that the amount of pollution that we're putting into the air, and just by our cars alone, and it wasn't the best way to come about, as she shared, to the recognition that we're driving far more than we need to, going places where we really don't have to at that time, but now we're all on the roads, just up and down, as she puts it, but really nothing meaningful in, you know, but yet, as we're back to that normal again, we seem to have forgotten lessons. Similar, she says, to what may have happened in the aftermath of Ivan, a rush to rebuild, more, uh, bigger buildings, higher buildings, densities, out the window, all maybe to line our pockets. So is it the greed, she asks, that drives us? Or is it the fact that we felt for the once, maybe as if we were not invincible? So therefore, let's go now and put our stamps even, deeper and darker, as it were. Well, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Pause and take a break. Well, when we come back, we want you to share with us. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
BIP, messaging made simple. Keep the good times going, even when you're social distancing. Message, call, or video chat with friends, family, co-workers, anyone. Video chat with 10 people at the same time. Send secret messages, translate multiple languages, and you get free app messaging available only on the Digicel network. It's your call, so make the most of it with BIP. Stay connected, start living, get BIPing. Download BIP today.
Hi, this is Danny Coleman, Director of Hazard Management Cayman Islands. We are now in the hurricane season, and for information on how to prepare and stay safe, please visit our website, www.caymanprepared.ky. Some top tips to bear in mind, given that we are still in the midst of COVID-19. Please make sure you have a mask and sanitizer, you have food supplies that last for 3 to 5 days, a portable radio, personal hygiene and sanitation items, and medical supplies, and any other specific items your family may need during a hurricane. Make sure you know where you will shelter in the event of a storm. If you have pets, please make sure provisions are in place for them too, as the majority of shelters will not take pets. Please visit our website for more tips and tricks on www.caymanprepared.ky or call us on 945-4624. Stay safe, Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It's open line. 1:30, our guest from the HSA will join us. We get a chance to talk to the good folks over at the forensics lab about the IgG testing. We got to learn more about the antibodies and the like. As part of this exercise, we've gone, 20,000 plus tests according to the briefings. So a lot of work and expenditure and time been expended. So we're leading the way. 949-8037 or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Hey, what's on your mind? What would you like to talk about? And quickly during the break, certainly we'll get back to the comments in relation to the whole notion about the traffic situation, the impact on our environmental air quality and to what extent, we have, if any, recognize that we now need to look more closely at the lives we live and what we're doing and how it's impacting others. But during the break, quickly, someone just sent a quick message about the ID cards and referenced that during the recent press briefing when it was announced, he said, got caught off guard, didn't realize that that was something that the government was working on. And quite honestly, the government is about planning and forward thinking, so these things can happen, and not everybody knows about it. But share that, why do we need it if it's not going to be a national ID, and how is it going to be utilized? Is it again, just share it quickly. Do you have all your information on the card for your insurance? If you're a civil servant, for instance, or you're insured with Synico, and then you go and you swipe it like you would a credit card. If you go to government agencies to transact business, you present the card, uh, and it could potentially, again, this is just the person's quick comment. The break was long, but not that long. And in the card, your information is populated. It's verifying who you are and what you're doing. So if you're renewing a driver's license or a passport, or if you're at the HSC, senior physician, or registering, for a class, any sort of government service, would this card then have that information? Could it also be used in relation to the private sector? A lot of information on the card is accessible if you want. How is it retrievable by the entity to whom you presented the card? And can it be linked as a form of payment? Now, he said quickly as we were coming back from the break that many of us now use our phones to pay. It's not a credit card, but yet you can use it to transact business. We use it as a means to store and retrieve information, to share information. Would this be any different? Well, any particular thoughts that you have? I guess his main thing is that, well, do we know enough about what this thing is for? What is the sort of ultimate purpose, and how will it be used? Will it be more of something that we would use for elections and tracking and monitoring citizens, for instance? Would it be able to look at registered voters and citizens and just, all and sundry? How is it issued and what is its purpose? Well, good questions. We'll get answers, I'm sure. But if you have a thought you want to share, that perspective, go right ahead. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Now, I know for some of us, it's Tuesday and it's for you the first work day back. For some of us, it's Tuesday and you've been working for, probably 120 days straight now, really little no time off. And for others, it's Tuesday and yes, yesterday was holiday, but you worked maybe quietly, because the jobs in which you do doesn't give you any time off. Holiday here, but the clients that you serve may be in another jurisdiction and no holiday there. So what was it like and what are you looking forward to? Share with us. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, give us that perspective so we understand specifically where you see, everything going. Now, back to the discussion that we're referencing before the break, emanating from a conversation with some others earlier who shared that yesterday in particular, like the weekend in general, very busy. Good to see people out at the beach, in a sense. That is the national parks. And very crowded for some, but for others, it's not crowded relative to other places. But as one individual shared, a lot of congestion. And is it because of the lives we live? Everybody is working at the same time, everybody is off at the same time. And when they get a break, then everybody's swarming to the same places at the same time. Now, one lady commented that when we look, and it doesn't take much. If you live in the same place you are now that you were 3 months ago, just go outside, early in the morning and the evening, whether the mosquitoes are there or not, and discover a couple of things. Well, it's a lot noisier, a lot more cars and people about the place, but is the air different? Now, is it because of, the dust layer? Possibly. Is it because it's getting more into summer and more people? Possibly. But is it also, she asks, because very obviously we experience for a short period of time, again, a forced choice upon many, but the impact was evident. Less cars, less pollution, and when we're out, not only was it seemingly safer, but easier and faster to commute, but equally, just the impact on the environmental air quality. And sharing that, she said, is this now a time when the government, this one, the next one, looks to long term solutions in relation to proper public transport, mass transit systems to move, people back and forth? Now, don't know where your expertise lies, and it's maybe something that you either know a lot about, have much interest in, or like some been reading to figure out, well, what could we do in such a small place? Are there novel things that we could employ? Are there punitive measures that would be seen by some to say, well, you can't own a car. You can only own one car. Your car, if you do, has to be this way. Or if it's a second car, well, it has to be this. Now, some would see that as draconian measures, others would be willing to accept it because it can't be any more draconian than maybe you've already experienced, in recent times. But is there another way to preserve some of the freedoms, but equally to present things in a way that promotes responsible ownership, progressive thinking, and as the lady shared, a notion that you're thinking about the impact today as well as a long time into the future, the environmental consequence of our actions, but also what it's going to cost, so that for the time on which we're paying for it, those who are sort of impacted to pay that, you know, this remaining generation and the ones that come after aren't so heavily saddled with such a financial burden that it's worth the investment. Well, are there examples in other jurisdictions that we could quickly borrow and employ? Are there things that have been tried in other places that were abysmal failures that we should avoid? Are there experimental things that we could perhaps partner to see if they actually could work in jurisdiction like this with the topography that we have? Now, some would say that building some sort of underground subterranean mass transit system may not necessarily be an answer. Others would say, well, if you try to build it, highly above the ground, probably won't work. Others would say, well, just can't do anything other than, grin and bear it, because we have so far continued to fail at doing anything successfully. 100 million here and 100 million there, and still nothing meaningful to show for it. Well, your view. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can share with us so that we appreciate the perspective that you have. Now, from that, we were looking very closely at some of the comments that were presented recently in relation to the individuals who were receiving assistance, in particular, the food and the like, while we were going through these recent months. And as one individual shared earlier, some of us are back to work, some of us aren't. And even though we're still not there, or travels within the country still restricted. We certainly have difficulty, traveling regionally and internationally. Other countries still have their borders, perhaps, not as open and as free as they once did, but people still, as the fellow shared, are in need of continuing assistance. Maybe not to the same extent. Maybe some are even now worse than they were, a few months ago, because whatever financial assistance or wherewithal that they may have had has perhaps long dried away, even though there are those who would be able to access whatever pension fund are paid. But what then in 3 months from now? And for those who are experiencing still a great need, this question is, are they able to continue to get assistance, and to what extent? And where are the people who, because they were able to volunteer as a result of not having a job to go to, now that they're required to return to work, or they have to and no longer able to volunteer, are we able still to assist others? Well, what do you think? 949-8037, or toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And when we come back, we're reading a comment about the recent ruling on the Court of Appeal's decision relative to the port. Let's see if we can somehow discuss that. But what is your thought? Is it necessary now to look at it in a different vein? Well, we're going to pause and take a short break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Mommy, have you been taking your medication?
No, I think I forgot to pick it up.
Your doctor prescribed it for a reason, so you should be taking it regularly.
I know, TD. Thanks for the reminder.
If you are elderly or vulnerable and need your prescription delivered to your home, contact the Health Services Authority Pharmacy at 949-8600. Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky or call 949-8600.
Dealing with this outbreak can be overwhelming, especially for those of us with mental health challenges. As a teenager, you can practice mindfulness by meditating or continuing to take your prescribed medication. You can also protect your mental health outlook during the global pandemic by limiting the amount of social media and news you watch, staying active, and resting. If you or a friend is coping with mental health challenges, call the Mental Health Helpline for free and confidential advice at 1-800-534-MIND. That's 1-800-534-6463. Weekdays from 9 to 5. For the latest information, visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. It's open line 949-8037, or toll free with a complimentary flow at 1-800-534-8255. Hey, how many of you so far have been able to get a chance to sort of quote unquote vacation? Maybe there was a particular place on the island that you have been wanting to spend some time, and now, well, you've done so in the last few weeks, or you are about to in the coming months. Well, share with us. I say that only to sort of pay deference to a comment of a particular fellow who had shared a long time ago, and he reminded me of it yesterday. And he said, "You make sure you mention that." And he said, for the longest of times, he had two challenges. One, the time to actually take a vacation on island. And two, he said, sadly, the one or two times over the years that he had inquired, well, I'd like to stay at a particular, condo or hotel, whether it's on West Bay Road or out east or somewhere, but to have been treated with a less than warm reception. No, not only did it seem expensive, it's summer and the height of summer, and seemingly he did, after some time of our discussion, acknowledge that he gathered that last summer and even maybe the one prior, it wasn't really a slow season necessarily, but he said certainly it would probably not have been as high in occupancy as it would have been in December or February. But he's got time in August and even in September, and had made inquiries. Well, what if I could stay here for a week or two, 3 or 4 days, and found a couple of things. Now, I share this with you because, as he said, maybe this will be an opportune time for the proprietors of the hotels, the condos, the managers, and whoever to recognize that there is significant wealth in the community. There is this almost sometimes captive market, one now for obvious reasons. But if you could encourage the people who live and work here to come to your properties, spend maybe a weekend or a fortnight, as he puts it, well, that would be not only money that remains in the economy, but allowing the people who live and work here to better appreciate what we have. But he gave us an example, two things. Not only did it seem expensive relative to maybe hopping a flight and going somewhere and get away. Physically, sometimes the vacation you need to be in a different place. But we all know that even if you were to spend a weekend or 3 or 4 nights in a hotel, sometimes even on an island, it can feel like you're in a different place. But he said the most disconcerting thing that he has ever experienced was, trying to book a place and to be either A, from one of the hotels on West Bay Road, to have been told, well, for locals, well, you can only stay, for the weekend, 2 nights max. That's it. I thought, well, why is that? It's not that expensive, so they can afford to stay longer. But nope, that's their policy. Now, I wonder if other people have experienced that, and I wonder if it's the same property. The other thing he found is that not only some people very, very blatantly, in a very discriminatory manner, would say, no, we're not renting to you. Now, you could say, well, if people aren't necessarily mindful to take care of others' properties, then yeah, unfortunately, that may mean that the good suffer, for the bad. But if it's a case where there are people who can and who do certain things, and there's no sort of sanction for their actions, then really, as he puts it, how does that, make us appreciate the product that we have if they can't access it at all? Not because it's $1,000 a night and they can't afford it, but whether it's $1,000 or $10 a night and you can afford it, but you're not able to access it because it's close to you. We don't rent to locals. And if it's the case of the hotels and the like that's happening too, as he shared, maybe this is an opportune time for those properties to revisit their policies. Now, if it's that this is what the property rents for, and we feel this would be a disservice to the integrity of the property to lower the price. Well, there's no discount. There's no discount. You know that if you buy in a particular dish at a particular restaurant and it's $100 a plate, but then you get in an exceptional, tasting menu item, and it's going to be served with, a sense of love and a superb service, then you pay it and enjoy it and appreciate it. But if it's, given to you in one way and served in another, well, you may question whether there's value for money. Now, as I reflected on what he shared, the idea that we now have a chance to look at a market that is enjoyed by many except those who live and work here, uh, products and services that are available in our retail outlets that are on par, both with respect to price and the quality and the service, than we can order online. Is there something else, that is perhaps serving to hinder our continued expenditure in our own local economy? Now, not to put in place things that uh, limit the free market to an extent, but if our retailers offer the same product X for a very competitive price with great service, as you can gain by going online, clicking a button, putting in your payment information, and then it's delivered here. And sometimes more costly than you can buy it by physically going into the bricks and mortar place, somewhere in one of the retail plazas, but you still do it. If the service after the sale is good and the warranty is there, but you still purchase it from overseas. Now, is that we are not loyal to our economy? Is it that we've have a perception, well, it's really not that good and we're misinformed? So is there something that the Chamber of Commerce, the retail outlets, and the associations alike can do to remind and educate our consumers that, buying local just doesn't mean the employment and the growth of the economy, but you have competitive price, comparatively the position, product or service, and then the after sales service is what you're looking at. But when you look at that and then you look at experiences, as the gentleman relayed earlier, that you try to book, a condo or a hotel, and you're not welcomed. You're openly told, well, we don't rent to locals, or you can't rent for, no more than 2 nights at our hotel. We'll see. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We'll pause, we'll take a break when the news, shortly. We'll come back and we'll continue with our open line segment. 1:30, we'll get a chance to join our friends from the Health Services Authority to learn more about the PCR testing that they were doing, the new IgG testing that they've started in recent times, and probably would be surprised to learn that they have now possibly done hundreds and hundreds of those tests. Certainly wouldn't mind knowing what the number is and how the process actually is going and how it transpires and what it may mean for us and the like. They say knowledge is transformative, and knowledge certainly helps us to be informed, and with that, it makes us in a position to understand and to share and to perhaps be better equipped to make more informed decisions that should impact us in a better, more productive way. But again, like anything, if you don't know and you don't know, you don't know, then you may think that ignorance is bliss. And when you do know, you only then you realize how much you don't know, and so you seek to know more. That's the beauty of learning, and joy is in sharing that knowledge with others. So share with us 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Of course, if you like the one or two who have said they're having a challenge, well, it's just maybe one of those days. You can call our request line, which gets you into the studio as well. 949-6990. We'll pause and take our break. When we come back, more talk today.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecasts, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. A request to government to consider amending local legislation that will increase maternity leave in the private sector to the same 90 days leave as in the public sector was approved by lawmakers Thursday night in the Legislative Assembly. The motion asked government to consider increasing the private sector allotment by December 2021. In international news, zoonotic diseases, which jump from animals to humans, are increasing and will continue to do so without action to protect wildlife and preserve the environment, the United Nations experts have warned. They blame the rise in diseases such as COVID-19 on high demand for animal protein, unsustainable agricultural practices, and climate change. A decision to withdraw U.S. visas from foreign students whose courses move fully online has been criticized. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said people could face deportation unless they changed to an institution with in-person tuition. A number of U.S. universities are considering online teaching in the new academic year due to coronavirus. The decision affects students who are in the U.S. on F1 and
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best in sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Green Turtle, Modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today. Members of the public are reminded that the Cayman Islands borders remain closed to commercial travel. If you need to travel during this time, you are required to register online at www.exploregov.ky/travel time, which replaces the original emergency travel process. If you have already registered, you must reconfirm your intentions to travel by filling in the form at www.exploregov.ky/travel time. 9 repatriation flights are scheduled to and from Kingston, Miami, and London through July 11th. Other flights are being arranged after July 11th based on demand. Anyone required to travel must register online at www.exploregov.ky/travel time. All persons returning to the Cayman Islands are required to isolate for 14 days in a government isolation facility.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM from 7:30 to 9 a.m. for Cayman's new Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Radio Cayman News.
We really do need to be disciplined and continue adopting the good habits of social distancing.
Having internet access at this time is more critical than ever.
Travel Time will be tasked with coordinating the return of Caymanians, permanent residents, and work permit holders to the Cayman Islands.
Officers respond to a stabbing Friday night in Northside.
Radio Cayman, your official source for Cayman's COVID-19 response. Hear it here first.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. 949-8037 or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. And as we were looking at a couple of things just previously, the notion of what is happening globally, what is happening around just the region alone, and a couple of things were sent to us. One, as we were reminded recently when we were talking about what is happening within our legislative assembly. What are your thoughts? There is the domestic partnerships legislation that is being proposed, the domestic partnership bill. Some have shared their views, saying about it's long overdue. Now, the one comment that we received from one individual, and I must apologize publicly, did ask, well, could you pass it along to some of the legislators? It's talking about the ages of consent, being able to enter into any kind of marriage at 16. Well, maybe that should be increased slightly, whether it's parental consent or not. Let's go to the phones though and join this caller. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Afternoon, Sterling. How you doing?
Hey, man, you crossed my mind in a good way. I hope you don't mind me thinking of you sometimes. So, how are you?
Pretty good, man. I hope you had a good long weekend.
It was good. It was a long weekend. I trust that yours as well as too.
I don't know. I don't know what level of appreciation for a long weekend I could have now after March 17th. We've had a 2.5 or 3 month long weekend, in my opinion. But what I will say though, I mean, I'm not going to comment on the issue with same-sex marriages because I think
Yeah.
that it's a tricky one, and for me, I don't have an issue either way. Um, but having said that, like I said, I would say very little in that regard. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, there was a lot said in the legislative assembly that that I would that I would care to pass a comment on. Obviously, it's it's almost impossible for us not to form an opinion on some of the things that have transpired over the last couple of months, and certainly within the legislative arm. And obviously, more recently, where we had the overturning of a ruling by the judge in the Shirley Ralston case, and certainly I will say this, and I'll say this for the record. I think the basis and the grounds in which the premier challenged that appeal in terms of the vulnerability of our judicial system and our legislative arm of legislating laws, I have to totally agree with the premier in that regard. I think that that we shouldn't set any precedent that will remove any level of autonomy to our legislators to legislate laws for the Cayman Islands in terms of what's best for us. We don't always get them right. We don't always make the right ones, but it's a learning experience across the board. And I would hate to see that we have somehow gave up the rights to do so or allowed another entity of our island in order to dictate legislation that is imposed by the government. Whether or not we agree with the legislation, I think what the premier was trying to articulate was that the precedent wasn't something that he would have agreed to, and I don't agree to as well. So, having said that, obviously we got to be fair in whatever comments we make in terms of what the real issues are, and that's exactly what I tried to demonstrate in that regard. But where I want to also bring up, and what else I also want to bring up, and I would like to open the dialogue with other persons, because when we look at the comments made by the premier in terms of not having a referendum on the next general election or not having one at all during the rest of his tenure, it disappoints me because I would have thought that this exercise of people getting a petition, reaching the 25% threshold that is required by the Constitution, enacting a section of our Constitution which is available to us, the people. And it's absolutely, disappointing that the premier of our country, regardless of who it is at the time, unfortunately it happens to be Mr. Alden McLaughlin at this particular point, would disregard the efforts that were put in by the people of the country that exercise their rights to the Constitution and prove that there is a public consensus within the voting public that says we should have a referendum. Now, the reason why I brought that up, Sterling, is because it's very important that we understand that, yes, the now premier said, he's no longer going to pursue a cruise berthing facility, that it will have to be another administration. And that in itself, that utterance in itself is what concerns me the most, because what it's basically saying is that I'm not going to do it in the rest of my tenure. So therefore, if someone else wants to do it, that'll be on them. That's why I think it's absolutely imperative that we have the referendum so that the voting public can vote whether we want one or not. So therefore, any government now or in the future will have to take it back to the people to see whether or not they change their mind, regardless of what the outcome is. So I think that not allowing the constitutional process to continue as it's required under that document, to have the referendum so that the people of the island can vote on whether or not we want a cruise berthing facility, so therefore that any incoming government understands clearly that this is the decision of the people. We have made the decision. So therefore, don't waste the public's money or the government's time talking about building a cruise berthing facility any longer, because we have voted on it and we've decided to. not build it if that's the case. And if they decide to build it, then I'm sure the next government will embark on ways in which to do that. But I think that the process of getting a petition together to reach the required numbers was a task in itself. It was done, it was completed, it was accepted by the election office, it was verified, it was accepted in the cabinet office. I think that under the Constitution, by mere fact of rights to the people, we should have the referendum, whether or not the sitting government agrees to move forward with the port or not, or whether their opinion is that it's dead in the water. It's dead in the water for them, but it's not necessarily dead for some other politician who might come along that has the same mindset, and then we have to go through this whole process again. So I feel that it's owed to the people of the country to have the referendum, so that we can decide either way and put this behind us once and for all. Because we've done a lot of talking, we've done a lot of back and forth. We even done a lot of emotional outcries, which have created some level of division amongst our people, the limited amount that we do have. And I'm starting to realize more and more, Sterling, is that I don't want to be on one side or the other of any issue in Cayman. I want all of us to be on the same side of what's good for Cayman. I want all of us to be on the same side of what's the best for Cayman. Whether we agree politically or personally or socially, whatever the case is, but we should all try to agree to move forward on what's best for Cayman based on the research, the data, and our environment that presents itself to us with the necessary studies and research to understand what is in the best interest of the Cayman Islands. So I'm tired of being the bad guy. I'm tired of being the guy that speaks up and then you get all this rhetoric for it. I don't mind it. I've been doing it for many years, but the problem is that we haven't accomplished anything, and no one wants to listen to your ideas because of who you are or what they perceive you to be. So at the end of the day, I'm begging the government. I'm asking the Premier today to please have the referendum on the next general election. That way it don't cost us any extra money in terms of setting up a different voting day. We're already having a general election. The election office will already be in election mode. The polling stations will already be in place. So therefore it would be very, very limited cost to the people of the Cayman Islands to have this constitutional requirement met by the people of the country with the consensus of the 25% of the petitioners. I think it's the right thing to do. I think that it's not no one side of whether we do it or not. It's the side of the country that have the right to go out now and vote, whether we need a cruise berthing facility or not. I think we need to finally put this horse in the stable and stop beating it, because it's consuming a tremendous amount of our efforts, energy, and resources and money, and we need to stop it. So,
well, I hear you, right? If I may then just ask you from that perspective, then two things. One, the Premier's comments about not, his government won't have the referendum. I hear your point, but he, I believe, at a briefing, made the comment that the question was on this specific project. You're saying, as a question asked, but could we just have a general question? Do we want a cruise berthing, or do we want it in town, or do we want it, this way?
Well, my answer to that would be this, and I think this is where I think the Premier and his entire cabinet has failed to take into consideration all of the reasons why we don't need a cruise berthing facility. It has nothing to do with location. It has all to do with the fundamental issues that will arise once you put that facility in place and bring those extra bodies to our shores that will strain the limited infrastructure that we have to accommodate. It will water down the quality of our experience. It will jeopardize the entire tourism sector as it sits today. And I think that most people are of the belief that the reason why we fought for the right to have an opportunity to vote, whether we need it or not, was because we had an issue with the location. Well, I can tell you that there are many fundamental issues that will drastically and forever affect the Cayman Islands if we embark on a project such of this magnitude, that it will disrupt the very existence of a quality product that we have. Mm-hmm. Listen, there's no mystery around what sector of the tourism industry that generates the most revenue. There's no mystery around why people come to Cayman. There's no mystery around whether or not we have a good tourism product. So therefore, I don't understand why we're not doing everything in our power to not only maintain but to enhance the already great product that we have. But if you embark down the road that we're going to go mass cruise simply because we're trying to derive more money on a head tax count, so that we can and the headlines look as if we're making more money, but we're spending a tremendous more on trying to accommodate, trying to maintain, trying to mitigate all of the issues that extra head count brings to the table. So I don't know whether or not the cost of the extra people is going to outweigh the cost of being able to accommodate a quality experience. So we must strike a perfect balance between the two industries.
Yeah. As you shared too, I think that speaks to maybe the decisions of the government in the early 90s to try to limit the number of cruise ships on a particular day to give the experience, an enhanced view on one end for the retail shops as well. But then with the cruise sector in particular facing, I don't even want to call it a PR nightmare. I mean, it's a petri dish on steroids, as I think has been described, not just for this outbreak, but for anything. That experience is distasteful, according to some. Is this an opportune time to rethink, the whole product?
Well, it's very ironic and it's interesting. Obviously that you make that point, because when we look at the thing called brand Cayman, we know that we're not present in the hospitality industry. We know that we're not present in the other industries where people come to enjoy the Cayman Islands and its people. We know that we're limited for the harvest of people that we have in those sectors. And the only reason that is, Sterling, is because we have poor legislation and policies that never ensured the involvement of our people. We know that there should have been comprehensive training programs that highlighted the importance of the hospitality and the tourism industry, but there were none. You can't have a little program say come and learn how to do this, but yet the person who's signing up to that only heard about it when they got out of school. No one in school from the middle school level is taught from a comprehensive standpoint how important this sector and this industry is to our island and how lucrative it could be once you get into it. The thing is, and one of the greatest failures that we have is that we keep complaining about how we're not involved enough, or we keep saying that we're not, and it reflects back on those who make the policy decisions, because you and I both know that when we went to school, we learned what it is that it gave us. Some of us learned more, some of us were more inclined, some of us were better at it. But at the end of the day, school was an environment where you learn things that you didn't know. And as a result, you become a product of your environment. So if you talk to a 20-year-old right now that got out of school 5 years ago, and you say, hey, did you know if you worked at a bar as a bartender at one of the local bars that you could make X amount of dollars per year based on the salary and based on, well, not salary so much, but based on the tip and all these different things. Not to mention you get to meet other people and other opportunities open up. But what I'm saying is that because it's a huge absence of that in the school, because we're trying to create this elitist society where everybody should be doctor, lawyers, and bankers. If you're not those things, then you're not considered successful.
Yeah, but let me invite you, because I like when you share that. What if it's even something more sinister? We don't want to maybe sometimes face the elephant in the room, right? But what if in the school and in the wider community in our society, we not only ignore the teaching of these things as you shared, but we deliberately discourage people from entering that sector? And then worse, what if when they become knowledgeable, or they may have been aware of it early on because of their parents worked in that sector, maybe they've just happened to live near a hotel or what have you, but they're not able to get employment. And I say that from two perspectives, right? Why we may be deliberately discouraging. Take the lady that called the show a couple of Fridays ago, and shared, here's a young man. She had to inquire as to why he, wasn't able to get employment as a doorman, right? A bellhop, whatever the title that we. and to have been told. Now, this is what a lady relayed publicly by someone. She said for whom English was a challenge, to communicate in the English language. But the young fellow had a good disposition, good deportment, good demeanor, very pleasant, dressed well, smiled, had all the things, but he needed more, qualifications. Maybe he would have been better in another area of the hotel. Now, literally starting, the ground up, opening doors.
Right.
If we can
Well,
get that.
well, okay. To your point,
Mm.
I've seen where persons come from overseas, get a job in a restaurant as a waiter or even a bar back.
Mhm.
Okay, and then a year or two later, that person is the floor supervisor. So what that clearly tells me is that institution had the willingness to allow that person to gain that experience while working there, because they didn't come here as floor supervisor.
Right.
With experience, they came here and worked their way up. Now, people will argue, oh well, then that's what Caymanians would have to do too. But the biggest the gap that stands between that's what the Caymanians have to do versus what the foreign cheap labor has to do is that Caymanians are not afforded the luxury of pooling their resources to rent one apartment with 7 people. They don't have the luxury of pooling their resources to buy food and pay for other things. So the reality is, and their families don't live abroad where they can send their money to make their lives better. Their families live here in the same high cost of living that they live in jurisdiction. So when you sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I love the passion, but let me invite us to consider 2 other things, right? And it's unfortunate, and I say this from the perspective that what if there is more at play? Just like the fellow yesterday said to me, he was trying to rent somewhere not long ago, right? To have his family to be told, but we don't rent to locals, right? Not only the private houses, but for the respect to employment. What if, in your example, the foreign national who comes here? What if go ahead.
No, I'm listening to you, and I'm listening to you with great concern and disappointment, because
exactly.
For any person to tell a Caymanian that we don't want to rent a Caymanian on this island, in the Cayman Islands, it's something that we should be super ashamed of, that sort of thing is happening. I'm not telling you that the government or the powers to be should have people that police every single thing. However, we should have proper policies in place that ensure that when something like that do happen, that it's quickly dealt with and swiftly with harsh penalties. Now, the thing that blows my mind, Sterling, is that we are very aware of the issues that face the Caymanian people. We are very aware of those things, and we have been aware of those things for decades. The problem is that we have failed to see a collective group of elected officials who are motivated to fixing any of those things to the point where it disenfranchises the persons who are on the other end who are benefiting from the broken things. Because don't think for a moment that there are not a lot of institutions in this country that are benefiting from cheap labor, because there are. There are a lot of them that are benefiting from the manipulation that they use with cheap labor and the cheap laborers. That's taking place in this country, just like they won't rent a Caymanian. Just like when you go to a beach access, they got a chain and lock on it, but nobody goes to jail. So you don't tell me that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I listen. There were 2 comments that came in based on your comments, right, on our WhatsApp. One says, how many people in the public sector, and certainly I know the person writes, I know of many in the private sector who has come to Cayman, and actually give a couple examples, as dive masters, waiters, and the like, and are now working elsewhere, right? And actually, gives a few examples in the public sector as well as the private sector. So this individual says people like you mentioned, came here as one thing, then became a floor supervisor a year later. So people have come here, under the guise of one thing to get a permit, and then in short order, have worked their way up.
I agree, and I never said that to bash anyone, or I never said
No.
And I'm not saying that's what the writer said. What I basically highlighted that to demonstrate that if someone could fly here from a foreign country, a teen or work permit, because that's a process, fly flying here, getting here, making living arrangements, getting a work permit. That's an entire lengthy process. If a person can go through all of that, get here, and then in a few years they'd be a supervisor or a manager, when we have local harvest here that could also go through the same process. And I don't want to hear about it come back to, oh, the Caymanians don't want to work. That's not true. Caymanians cannot work in the impossible environment that has been allowed to be created by the institutions who enjoy and prefer cheap labor over Caymanians. That is the genesis of our problem.
Yeah, you recall, right, as this person wrote here, that there was a time when people would come in under the guise of dive masters and in that sector because it was easier, the hospitality sector, to get a work permit in that sector than it was in other sectors, and then they would, while here, not very long after, be employed in really where they really wanted to be. So much so that this person writes that the immigration board or whatever it was called at that time had to take measures to close that loophole, right? So your point is valid that this sort of thing happens. Um, but again, what are we doing? Because if for instance, as I have been reminded and have shared recently, the Caymanians trying to work in the hospitality sector, in the hotels and the like, found it difficult to get a mortgage to build their homes because the banks did not look at their salaries in the same light, since most of it was gratuity based, right? Now, are they applying the same standards across the board to make sure that people who want home ownership? Now, that's probably going to be a moot point now, anyway, given how difficult it is to acquire land. But another problem that is making it harder for people to own in their own country. Let me, if you are able, let's share with you the other comment the person shared. And this is in relation to your earlier comment about the Premier's sentiments, the individual rights, and says, well, agreeing with the Premier, certainly we need to challenge it, but why now don't we amend equally the elections law to allow appeals from the ruling of the Grand Court?
Well, you see, that's the reason why this entire exercise was important, Sterling, because it not only highlighted other issues that are within those certain arenas and platforms and laws, it also motivated the younger generation to see that there is a process that allows them to have a voice, whether or not a person is elected. They don't have to wait every 4 years to have a voice. And that's why this process is absolutely essential to the education of democracy, because if we don't seize this opportunity to ensure that this process follows through, then this will be all for naught. The precedent would be flawed, right? And that's why it's imperative that the Premier take the high road, do the right thing, honor the people's wishes and consensus, have the referendum, let us put to bed whether we need a cruise berthing facility or not. That way there could be no more question about, well, this group said this and that group wanted, this group don't want it, you only want it because of your interest, I only want it because of my interest. We could put all that to bed by simply having a vote. It's very simple. And this is not something that the government gets to choose on. If the government had the ability to choose whether we had a vote or not, then why didn't they force and disregard the petition? Because they couldn't. So how can he say he's not having something that is constitutionally binded by him or any sitting government to have, because the Constitution is very clear on what its requirements is in that section. If the people reach the consensus, which of 25%, then there must be a referendum. I don't understand why he could get on the radio and say that he won't have one because him and his government ain't doing it. We don't care whether your government doing it or not. We're concerned about future government trying to do something that we don't want to happen in our country. We want to go and have an official vote and put this thing to bed.
Well, I hear your perspective. I can also, weigh in on it, but we have perhaps an opportunity to take one of the callers to join in your discussion and then take the break. So, hey, thank you for sharing, man. Always, I miss having you in the studio with us, one, so we can get your input. So hopefully that'll change soon. Hey, thanks for your thoughts, right? All right, let's take one more quick call, Miss Susan, if we can, before we go to the break. Then we join our guests. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hi, good afternoon. How you doing?
Very well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Hope you're staying safe. Just a quick thing. I know that you have people coming in. Just a quick thing on just jump on Mario for a second. Now he made a good point about a lot of people coming in, and you're saying that you have people in Cayman that have not been taught hospitality. Now I graduated in high school in '88. We've been taught in high school from then about customer service, hospitality. As a father of four, who wife works in the hospitality industry. I worked in the hospitality industry over 20 years. My mom worked in the hospitality industry. My father was one of the first cab drivers on the island. So it all sends down and now my daughter, who is now into the hospitality industry as well. And let me tell you something, it's a big difference because back then they were helping you as a Caymanian move forward. Now, like you said, you have a lot of people who come here and work as a bar back and then end up being a floor manager or whatever in the service industry. But what you fail to realize that there's a lot of Caymanians that are teaching that person to become their supervisor. And they're not, you have Caymanians that are there longer before who put the time in 15, 12, 13 years, and this person comes and, oh, well, you need to train them to be up to speed, not knowing when you're training them to be up to speed, you're training them now to be your boss.
Right.
And the thing is, they come down, I have a lot of friends at Expats where you have a lot that will come down here, have their friends working in the same industry, and the friends help them out.
Yeah.
What I mean?
I hear your perspective,
And
but
the thing is, they're not pushing the Caymanians like how they used to before.
yeah.
Like before
I think
started,
though. Sorry, I just want to quickly for in speaking to Mario and listening to him, I think his comment was that in school when we were there, or even perhaps now, the importance of the sector isn't highlighted. The amount of money you can make, the job opportunities that are there, isn't stressed, to our school leavers, to our students early on. I think, said what I recognize. Those of us who grew up near it probably knew more about it and the benefit. And like you said, your father was, one of the first in it. You were there, but that's probably more. Do you think you knew more about the sector from your
I knew
personal
more about the
experiences?
sector, but I knew more about the sector. But remember, back then they used to have career day when they used to have work experience. They used to send you out on work experience. All right, that's when it first started off back in I think it was '87 or something like that. They had work experience, and I remember going to Hyatt, and I remember going to the Radisson at the time, and they're telling us, okay, this is what you can perform, this is what you can do, this is the type of money that you can make off of gratuities. The gratuity pool is big, blah blah blah, and this is what your salary is. Your salary is you could make $350 back in the day at Bob Soda's every 2 weeks, right? I'm sorry, every 2 weeks, where most people are like $700 every 2 weeks, but you're getting a $1,500 gratuity at the end of at the end of the month. So you add that all up, this is what your total salary is going to be, right? And that what made it more incentive. Plus, you got tips on top of that. But the thing, what a lot of people don't know in the hotel industry, as a Caymanian, even my daughter, who gets a lot of fight being a Caymanian, being in the service industry, from sometimes people that are working there, they're not from here, and saying, okay, Caymanian this and Caymanian that. And I've seen my daughter work. She'll go to work working in the service industry. She'll go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning on time, right? Never late, never been late, never been sick. Going to work at 5, come off at sometimes 3, 4 o'clock, come home, sleep, and back to work at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at 9 o'clock at night to do overnight, get back home at 5, and then back to work at 1. There were days that I barely saw my daughter, that I had to call and say, you still alive? You still live in the house?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. I think you and Mario are on a similar page in that it's not, and like as I was saying, for those who knew about the sector, knew about it from their own environment. In schools, you're introduced to it, but not to the same extent. When you're looking at how much money you can make, perhaps when you go to the bank may say, well, you made $1,000 last month, but $100 was salary and then 900 was gratuity, so we really can't take the 1,000. We can only take, then the 100, and so therefore you can't really qualify for anything. So are there things that happening now that may have happened then that are still happening now that are making it more and more difficult to, as you say, incentivize and encourage Caymanians into the sector?
Easier for Caymanians because number one, if you go to the bank and you're working in the hotel industry, it's harder for you to get a loan because they're going to tell you, they try to disencourage you by saying, because you work in the service industry, you're not making, is not a base salary, so they can't base your loan and your credit score on your gratuities because it fluctuates from time to time. So that's number one. Number two, they're putting way too many hurdles as a bellboy. You need this education. You need to speak 2 or 3, 4 languages. Basically, they want a non-Caymanian to be as a bellhop because if you're a bellhop, you're actually more important than the concierge. You're more important than the front desk. And I've been a bellhop before. I worked at a bellhop and ended up being as front desk by the time I left. As a bellhop, you're the first person that they see when they come in. You're the last person when you go in on a taxi, you call in for a taxi, the first thing they say to you, where is it for you to eat? You might suggest Champion House or Wellers and this and that. They don't want that because they want someone who's non-Caymanian who will tell you, who will say if they ask to get something to eat, they have to eat in-house or tell them to go to the concierge, which concierge is going to send them to somebody else, some other hotel, a sister hotel, where they're getting an incentive to send those persons over to them. And that's what people don't understand. Hotels get incentive when they send other people out to the restaurant that's affiliated with the hotel.
Yeah, man. These are the challenges.
So here's a chance where Cayman government could get things right now because, unfortunately, a lot of expats has gone home. So they need Caymanians to fill that job. I want to find out when we open up what the excuses are because you want someone to speak 4 or 5 different languages when you're in an English predominant speaking country.
Yep.
And the thing is, yes, Caymanians could go and get a secondary language. There's a lot of Caymanians that speak bilingual and either Spanish, Tagalog, English. I mean, there's a lot of Caymanians that speak 3 or 4 different languages, right? I have a friend of mine who speaks Tagalog and Spanish, which is a very similar language, right?
Surprised you don't speak more of a language, right?
And I mean, yeah, but I mean, the Philippines has 157 different languages, but Tagalog is one of them, right? And the thing is, you live in here, you stay in here, you come into vacation here. There's a lot of Caymanians who can speak dual languages. It's as simple as that. Why is it you cannot give them the opportunity to get the job to get there? When they give them a job there, it gives them a harder time. Being there as a Caymanian makes you feel more disenfranchised about being in your own work environment.
I hear you, man. I hear you. And I think it comes down to us starting to have a greater respect, for what is here and who is here. Appreciate your sentiments, man. Any other thoughts you want to leave with us? I just wanted to maybe ask if just that all is going well and that you continue to persevere, and that.
Yeah, no problem, man. But good talking to you, Sterling.
All right, man. All the best to you, and keep it up. It's a wonderful place with some great people. The question is, are we working together to make it better? Well, we'll pause and take a short break. When we come back, please rejoin us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Have
you heard the news? Get excited. King Sports Center is reopening on Saturday, July 4th for bowling and skating, Monday, July 6th for the Powerhouse Gym, and July 19th for sports programs. King Sports Center offers a complete health and recreational environment for the only sports and recreational facility of its kind in the Cayman Islands. A full list of all safety precautions is listed at www.kingsportscenter.com. For more information, call 946-5464. Email kings@candw.ky. King Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
The Economics and Statistics Office are currently conducting the annual business surveys. The surveys seek to measure the performance of all local industries. Survey forms for this year are mailed or emailed to all entities operating in the Cayman Islands. The business surveys are confidential under the Statistics Law and are exempt from the Freedom of Information Law. Your response matters. Do your part. Fill out and return your survey forms to the Economics and Statistics Office. For assistance in filling out the forms or for more information, visit eso.ky or call 525-8565 or 325-6652.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Mommy, have you been taking your medication? No, I think I forgot to pick it up. Your doctor prescribed it for a reason, so you should be taking it regularly. I know, TD. Thanks for the reminder.
If you are elderly or vulnerable and need your prescription delivered to your home, contact the Health Services Authority Pharmacy at 949-8600. Taking your medication when prescribed is important to your health, and your health matters to us. For more information about our pharmacy hours and locations, visit hsa.ky or call 949-8600.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken chair.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken chair.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa, I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC, just $12 each, and it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, I'm very honored for this continued partnership with the Health Services Authority, and welcome the opportunity to learn more about the PCR tests. The IgG testing is ongoing. As we go to the phones, we have the forensic DNA specialist and the technical quality assurance manager, Ms. Angela Tanzito Swartz, the forensic technician, Jonathan Smelly, together with the pathology laboratory quality coordinator, Martin McKenzie, and medical technologist, Marcia Walters. So it's Robinson Walters, and to your colleagues, very pleasant good afternoon to each of you. Welcome to our show.
Good afternoon.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Well, it's a great day, and one of the afternoons where I really wish we were all so we could see each other and help you to help me get our audience going. But perhaps first, if I can be most respectful, maybe start off with Ms. Angela initially. Good afternoon to you, and we welcome your presentation some many weeks back now, I believe, on one of the briefings. So as the manager of the section, it's a pleasure to have you and the entire colleagues join us. So good afternoon to you specifically.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us on your show.
Well, it is a pleasure. And then to Mr. Smelly, good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is, man. Mr. Mackenzie, I believe you enjoyed your last visit with us, so hopefully this one will be as well.
Definitely.
Miss Marcy, I think you've been there more, so as the veteran, maybe you'll guide us and have your colleagues feel more at ease, especially good afternoon to you as well.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure, and we're excited to learn more. I mean, I think someone shared, the beauty of knowledge is to, acquire it. The joy is in sharing it as well, and as it goes. And now we've heard much in recent times, PCR. We've heard, Dr. John Lee as the CMO, thankfully remind us that even the most intelligent amongst us sometimes can struggle with, some words, and whether it's the, you know, PCR, as he said, polymerase chain reaction. Hopefully, I don't say it and destroy its pronunciation as well. And then even now, we're excited to learn more about IgG. Could I maybe at first ask, when we talk about the PCR test, what is it anyway? Who would be more willing to maybe delve into that initial discussion? Ms. Angelo, would that be you to be asked initially?
Yes, I can certainly talk to you about PCR. I've been doing it since 1999. So.
Well, we want to learn, so share with us. What is it?
Well, you pronounced it perfectly well. It is the polymerase chain reaction, and it's it sounds complicated, but as far as the testing and stuff goes, it's actually very simple. All we're doing is we are using a chain reaction to create copies of locations on a, like in this case, it's a virus, but we do the same type of testing for in human DNA testing. When we test for Zika and dengue and chikungunya, it's all the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
But we use it to make copies of specific unique sections on that organism so that we can see it, right? Because you have a virus, but you can't see it with your eyes. So we use the polymerase chain reaction to amplify it and make lots and lots of copies so that we can actually see it.
Okay. Now, I will say at the outset that I'm very much excited and interested in the science, the technology, the understanding of how it all works, and nothing that I say, ask, or is intended to comment on politics or anything political at all, right? So just the science and then the notion, because this stuff is fascinating. But with it though, with the PCR, I come from a world where we look at numbers, but there's for balance sheets and business and the like. Is the PCR test, is that test that we do very much similar to what a company's financial statements would be like then and there, in that the test is good now, and beyond now doesn't mean if you have it or if you don't have it that you won't get it. How important is the test, and what does it tell us at that particular point?
Okay, so the PCR test is pretty much a snapshot in time, if you think about it. So anybody who's gone and had this particular test done, that swab goes way up their nose, and right? And if there are viral particles, if the virus is in there at that time, then the PCR would be able to detect it, right? But if 2 days from now or 2 days later, somebody who didn't have symptoms developed symptoms. So, you could test negative today, and then on Friday you could test positive, right? Because that sample is just a snapshot in time, which is why, the people that have been coming back and they're staying in the isolation facility, and they have to have those tests that show they're negative before they can come out, and a few people come up positive. Right. So at that point, public health continues to take samples from them periodically until those tests come back negative, because each one of those is a snapshot for that moment in time.
Like a balance sheet on a business, it's what the inventory is like, so it's then and there. With that, and I'm certainly excited to hear about the number of tests, and I don't wish to downplay it by any means because it's a great feat. But of that 20 plus thousand that we've heard conducted thus far in our country. Do we know if that is, distinct individuals or discrete individuals, or is it that they may be, half that number because someone may have been tested 5 times, for instance, because of the nature of their job?
It's my understanding that the way those numbers are, it is by count for an individual, right? So if one person in the isolation facility has 5 tests, they're not counted 5 times in our total number.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Because I did gather from Dr. Lee's last statement that it may have been a case where, as you said, it is, but the 20 odd thousand, would be maybe 10% of that. Maybe individuals that have been tested more than once or so. But be that as it may, still a lot of tests.
Yeah, and that's different than us, the laboratories where the HSA labs were approaching our 20,000th PCR test. That is just the number of tests that we've performed. We don't differentiate as far as our results go with an individual. That's once the information is given to public health and the CMO's office that they determine what the count is for the Cayman Islands dashboard.
Okay. As it is now, and we're sort of going through a different level, we're sort of looking at different things, global and the like. The testing will still be a part of it going forward, like I said, whether we're doing Zika, chikungunya, or other things. Is this test, the PCR test that we're doing, just for sort of emphasis, when we're doing other tests, of PCR tests going forward, it'll be the same thing? The person needs a swab, a nasal swab, will extract it the same way, process it the same way, whether we're looking for coronavirus or Zika or something else?
No, actually, the type of sample that you take from a patient does depend on what the possible infection is. So you would, for the viruses like Zika, it's a blood sample, blood or urine. It's detectable in both of those body fluids. Whereas for the respiratory viruses like the COVID-19, it's the nasopharyngeal swab is widely thought to be the best sample for that.
Okay, and then with that, then again, please share with me and understand that I always see myself as a student in the classroom, sitting somewhere near the front so I can hear and see as much as I can hear and see. It always excites me, But is PCR good for viral detection? We look back to, perhaps the professor, the biochemist that came up with it. I mean, is it the appropriate measure to detect viral infections?
Oh, absolutely it is. I know for a lot of people in the audience, PCR is a new thing for them, but PCR has been around since the mid-90s, and it's been developing and improving during all of that time. And now for a lot of diseases or viruses, the ability to use what's called molecular detection techniques, molecular diagnostics, which is what PCR is really the test of choice. And also it's supported by other types of testing, like the traditional serology type testing that our clinical laboratory does, molecular or microbiology assays. All of that stuff works together, the IgG testing, right? So we're going to continue to do PCR testing even while we have the IgG testing, because they test for different things. So they give the clinicians different pieces of information, and both of them are pieces of the puzzle that they need to look at.
Okay, great. And I'm glad and appreciate you clarifying that, because that the PCR is sort of like the gold standard in for viral detecting viral infections. For some reason, I was under the impression that since it is, well, my understanding again, please, as a scientist, make sure I don't misunderstand. It was a manufacturing technique, using it to replicate, as you said, the DNA sequences and the like. So I thought, it wasn't necessarily the intended use for the PCR.
Right. Well, there's lots of applications of a lot of the tests that we do in the forensic laboratory on a regular basis. I mean, I say a lot of the tests. Basically, all of the tests that we do are PCR tests. They're all PCR based. If anybody's had a paternity test done before, that is a PCR test as well. It's just a different type of PCR test. There's a lot more steps involved in that. The one we do for the viruses is considerably simpler and faster to do. And the good thing about PCR, and I guess it's something that a lot of people don't really have a good basis for understanding, is that it is specific to that organism, that life form that you're testing, right? So we test, for a positive PCR result for SARS-CoV-2, we've tested at least 2 genetic locations that have to be present before we call something a positive result. And it's extremely sensitive as well, because we can detect down to just, a few viral copies or viral particles in somebody's sample.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing. And then when we look at this, the beautiful part is that maybe we become more comfortable with the science and the technology, understanding the nomenclature and the like. But when you think of bacterium in blood, for instance, and when we get on with the cultures, having a gold standard maybe will help us to understand it. And again, as you shared, the PCR is that gold standard in this instance.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, when we come back from this break, maybe we could go into further talk about IgG testing and the like, ask other questions, invite our other 3 guests to join us. For those who are sharing with us, we have the excellent company of, almost the full complement over the HSA, talking to Ms. Angela Schwartz, Jonathan Smelly. We got Martin McKenzie together with his colleague, Marcia Robinson and Walters. Now, when we come back to IgG testing, what it means for us, how we look at antibodies. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's read the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Deputy Governor says good progress is being made with the formation of the Cayman Islands Regiment. The commanding officer, 2 senior officers, the regimental sergeant major, and 5 officer cadets have been appointed so far. The Honorable Franz Manderson says the 5 officer cadets are currently undertaking the commissioning short course at the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst in the UK. In international news, zoonotic diseases, which jump from animals to humans, are increasing and will continue to do so without action to protect wildlife and preserve the environment, the United Nations experts have warned. They blame the rise in diseases such as COVID-19 on high demand for animal protein, unsustainable agricultural practices, and climate change. A decision to withdraw U.S. visas from foreign students whose courses move fully online has been criticized. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said people could face deportation unless they changed to an institution with in-person tuition. A number of U.S. universities are considering online teaching in the new academic year due to coronavirus. The decision affects students who are in the U.S. on F1 and M1 visas, according to the ICE statement. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro has tested positive for coronavirus. He took the test on Monday after developing symptoms. Mr. Bolsonaro has repeatedly played down the risks posed by the virus, calling it a little flu. He has also urged regional governors to ease lockdowns, which he says hurt the economy, and on Monday he watered down regulations on wearing face masks. Those are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, radiokman.gov.ky.
your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, and truly a special thanks for the opportunity to continue our partnership with the Health Services Authority and to learn more as we talk about the PCR testing and the IgG testing. Now, on the line, we have truly a wonderful complement of the forensic DNA specialist and technical quality manager, Angela Danzito Schwartz, together with forensic technician, Jonathan Smelly, and equally join him, the pathology laboratory quality coordinator, Martin McKenzie, and the medical technologist, Marcia Robinson Walters. Now, Mr. McKenzie and Ms. Marcia, as we start this next segment, this whole notion, we've talked about the PCR test and we've seen the celebration of, significant accomplishment. But many people want to know about, antibodies and the like. Maybe you could share with us, first off, the IgG testing, Mr. McKenzie?
Yes. Marcy can tackle the part of it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Ms. Marcia.
Currently, we are doing the IgG antibody testing, and that is a screening test for proteins called antibodies in the blood. The body makes these proteins called antibodies to fight infection, such as COVID-19. So we're looking for that specific immunoglobulin against COVID-19.
Okay.
So the antibody is detected in response to the body mounting an immune response to attack the COVID-19 virus.
All right. Well, with that then, because we know that, well, I shouldn't say we know, they help us to understand. Once the antibodies are within the system, we believe in the person, if, I guess, similar to get the vaccination, the person would be okay going forward, right? That's the idea?
It's quite dependent.
Okay.
Here we have it gives a lot of information to the clinician and for public health surveillances. Also, right now we're in a critical phase where we don't know a lot about the antibodies that are created in the body right now. So it's a lot going on with studies, but so far we know that when persons get infected with COVID-19, their body will mount an immune response to it, and they will produce antibodies against the COVID-19. These antibodies will be saying to you that the person had a past infection of COVID-19. Unlike the PCR molecular testing, which we do with the PCR studies we're doing and the gene expert, the IgG is an indication that the person has built up antibodies against the COVID-19.
Okay. Now,
So it's significant of a past infection, not so much of a current infection.
current one. Yeah. So the antibodies are there. That means we've probably had it. And as you said, we're
Not
learning.
probably, definitely had it.
Okay.
That the person had it.
All right. I like the definitiveness of that. So science helps you. From that perspective, then the testing that we've done so far, what are we finding? What sort of numbers are we coming up with to indicate relative to our populace in terms of the antibodies within those that we've tested with the IgG testing?
We have hundreds that we've done so far, and we're seeing good correlation between persons who were tested positive, showing the antibodies. And what we should note also is that persons can be infected with COVID-19 without having symptoms. So this is very important for persons to be checking for this antibody. Persons might be positive, they might be COVID, they might have the infection, they might have had the infection, but because of the nature of the disease for some persons, it's not very symptomatic for some persons. For some persons, they don't get sick. So doing the IgG test will tell you that, yes, the person was infected at some stage.
Okay. Do we know then what percentage of the people who had the PCR testing were positive and then went ahead, for instance, and had the antibody IgG testing and then it showed up, and then equally on the other side of the coin, they may have been negative but showed up with the antibodies. Do we know any of that information?
From right now, we've not gotten a definite immune response, studies to show definite immune response. But we can see we're about 80 to 90% is showing up with the antibody of who were tested with the PCR.
Okay. Now, maybe
and we should also note that whenever we're doing a test, some persons might not mount an immune response because of different reasons. It could be that someone might be immunocompromised where their body is not making immunoglobulins, they're not making antibodies. So for some reason, you might have the odd persons who might show up and they were tested with a PCR, but they might not show the IgG antibody. It's not that the test is wrong. It might be that their body did not mount a response.
Right. And then with that, then for sort of future reference, as we get more data and stuff, would we then be looking at potentially, well, I should ask this, would we be able to say you test someone today and 6 months or a year, 3 months even from now, if we were to test them again using the IgG testing, that the antibodies will be there? Or are we assuming that if they're there now, they'll be there forever? Where are we in that sort of
It is
thought
possible, but there's not much proof. There are studies still ongoing to make sure that this is true, but there's no positive, concrete evidence that they are going to have lasting antibodies that will be for years to come. So we're watching the medical researches and everything that is going on, but it is not yet proven that persons are totally going to be immune for a lifetime when they develop antibodies. We're still new in this infection and we're all learning. So, and therefore, that is why it's so important that the data we're getting now can be used to make decisions later, because what's been collected now is properly documented, I'm sure. And we in this island have been doing exceptionally well to put those data together.
Okay, and that's encouraging because as you were sharing, this is seems to be a collective effort, and we're looking at international as well as regionally. But then, would we be pursuing from the research perspective, some of that data so that we can say we tested now, and then down the road, 3, 6 months, a year or later, test the same subjects again, just to see whether or not the antibodies are there, they were present, in the past, are they still present now? Are we going to be doing that to help to inform the science?
The testing is ongoing, so I'm sure we will be testing periodically for different groups. Different groups will be identified and will be prioritized for testing, such as all healthcare workers, all persons who have recovered from all positive persons who were tested PCR positive will be tested in this group. All contacts of positives will be tested. Patients, dialysis patients, oncology patients, all essential workers will also be screened, and persons over 70. So that will give quite a bit of data.
Yeah, and that would be automatic? That'd be mandatory? I mean, just part of the panel as well?
That's a target group, and for now. And we're not saying it's mandatory, but we are encouraging persons to get the test done. Because the more information that we gather in the Cayman Islands on COVID-19 is going to be better able to prepare us for the future. So we are hoping that persons will, if they know they're in this target group, that they can contact the HSA. They can contact antibody screening at hsa.ky to book an appointment to get tested.
All right. And is there a charge for that? Do you know if people...
This is something that the Public Health Department will take care of, definitely.
Okay. Part of the science
They
and
will
research.
have more information on charges, but...
Yes. But certainly, Ms. Marcy, I want to ask you, Martin, some of the questions, but if I could then just, again, engage Ms. Angela. Ms. Marcy, just reference sort of reliability and accuracy to make sure that we have, confidence in the testing. If we could just quickly revert back to the PCR testing, and people talk about false positives, and we've seen, international even, some comments relative to the veracity of the results. In our case, what is our sort of confidence interval? What do we think? How many have been, tested positive but really weren't, or vice versa? Do we know?
Well, we have a rigorous quality assurance program in place that would allow us to detect if that was an issue, and all of the tests that we run are thoroughly validated before we actually run them on patient samples. So at each step in the process, we introduce two types of control samples, one that we know has the virus in it and one that we know is negative. And those are carried through in tandem with the patient samples. And those are what give us an indication of the test performance. So, for example, the positive control sample has to give us a positive result with a certain value range, and the negative sample has to give us a negative. If the negative sample isn't negative, that shows that there's something wrong with the test, and it could have just been a laboratory, a small error, in which case, anytime the controls, positive or negative, don't behave as they're supposed to, we do an investigation to determine why, and depending on what that investigation shows, we might retest all of the samples in that group. So we don't release any data or results without all of the controls having worked correctly.
Right. Well, I sort of respect and appreciate that. With respect to that value, what are we looking at? Less than 40, less than 30, less than 35? What sort of value range are we looking at for that?
Well, it depends on which PCR test you're using, and it depends on which real-time PCR machine you're running it on. But yes, typically that value should be less than 39.
That high?
Well, 30. So when we're talking about real-time PCR, the higher the number, the lower the virus count.
You're talking PPV, right? The positive predictive values, similar in statistics, right? Is this what we're talking about?
No, this is actually a basically a value related to the quantity of virus in the sample.
Okay.
So the PCR tells us positive or negative, but then we actually have to interpret the data, the signal that comes off of the instrument. There's a lot of data evaluation. It's not just you don't just put the sample in and, an hour and a half later, you know the answer. You actually have to go through and review the data and interpret the results.
Okay, all right. Well, this is, I think, as we start to learn more and then maybe understanding, the significance of which tests we're looking at and whether there'll be more than just a comment in the media of false positive really has little or no value. All right, respectfully, one last quick break. But when we come back, could we continue talking about, maybe the IgG testing and asking about the Gene Expert machine and some other questions? It's a learning experience. I hope it's of value to our listeners. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
We are here for you. Whether you are in extreme financial need, have lost your job, have been directly or indirectly affected by the pandemic, we are here. The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan is here to assist through the Cayman Islands Government Emergency Withdrawal Program. To withdraw, visit chamberpension.ky and complete the online application form by filling in your personal details, the amount you wish to withdraw, and upload a notarized government ID such as your passport or driver's license. For information as it happens, visit chamberpension.ky or follow our social media pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We thank you for your patience as we address the high volume of email and phone queries. The Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. You can count on us.
Here is a special public service announcement from the Justice of the Peace Association. JP services for the public in the Government Administration Building will resume on Wednesday, July 8th. Services will be provided on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to noon in a designated space adjacent to the reception area in GAB. Please look for the designated signage and directions, and also remember to have all documents and identification has been fitted with a plexiglass partition. Hand sanitizer will be available. No one can enter the GAB without a mask. Sanitization of the area will be carried out between clients. You must practice social distancing while waiting in line for service. The Justice of the Peace Association, serving the community with humility and integrity.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much. And thanks to the Health Services Authority not for their continuing excellent service across all of the deliveries, but for this partnership where we can continue to access the excellent team, the competence, and the commitment as we learn more about the PCR testing together with the IgG testing. We have, Miss Angela Tanzito Schwartz. We also have Jonathan Smeller together with Martin McKenzie and Marcia Robinson Walters join us. Hey, thank you each, for sharing with us part of your afternoon. And I know the public is very much, intrigued, and we're learning increasingly about the importance of seeking knowledge. If I could, as we continue this discussion, we saw it in our briefing, the acquisition of the Gene Expert machine. Perhaps we could ask some questions in this final segment about that. Uh, who wishes to share with us? Mr.
Yes.
Martin?
Yes,
All
Mr.
right.
Martin, yes.
Okay.
The gene export for us is kind of a game changer, and it tends to provide results in a more rapid fashion. It's basically the same kind of reaction as Angela spoke about, which is the PCR, but it's done more on a miniature scale. And it's all, the test is all built into one component. So it does the extraction for us, the purification, the amplification, identification on a cartridge, which is one cartridge, and it usually would produce those results in about 4 to 5 minutes to 1 hour.
So much faster.
Yes, so it's like PCR in a bottle, everything, in one compartment.
Like those espresso machines where you just put the cartridge in and you get your coffee quickly, huh?
Yes. So you could look at it as a form of a point of care machine because it is that small that it could actually be done, in a small location somewhere close to the patient.
Okay. Are we, how many of them do we have? Just one, or do we have many?
For now, we have one, but we have plans to acquire some more that actually widen the scope of testing in terms of numbers.
And we had heard at the press briefing initially announcing the acquisition that it was going to be sent to the BRAC. Is it on the BRAC or is it on Grand Cayman?
That's here, but in the pipeline, the BRAC should be getting one soon.
Okay. All right.
But
So
as it is, we collaborate closely with the BRAC. It's basically one and the same. So we can send the samples over here and have them run in a rapid fashion.
Okay, yeah. And as you shared, the benefit of that would be sort of patients needing transfer quickly, other issues relative to healthcare. They can get this test in to know where the status is in relation to the COVID-19 and the like.
Yes. And again, as I said, it's very rapid and very convenient in that, let's say a patient scheduled for, let's say, emergency, let's say a C-section or so. And you probably need a result, within a couple of hours or so. We can load it onto the gene export and have the result in rapid fashion. So on the clinical side, it adds real value when coming to the service of patients.
Yeah, that emergency treatment, the other issues, the quick turnaround is very evident. With respect to all of this testing and the like, a question that has sort of popped up. We look at the SARS, CoV-2, and then 17 years ago the CoV-1. What makes this second iteration, this time around, so much different from the one 17 years ago? Want to weigh in maybe from the scientific perspective?
Yes.
I'll try my best to answer that question. So the SARS-CoV-2 is one member of a family of coronaviruses. So coronaviruses are things like SARS and MERS, which caused outbreaks and a lot of problems in Asia. It didn't reach it to this part of the world, but there are proteins on the surface of these viruses that change over time as the virus infects one person to the other. And these changes, sometimes, most of the time, they're deleterious to the virus itself, and the virus dies out and it doesn't spread effectively between individuals. But sometimes that mutation or that variant happens where it gives it a power that allows it to infect more people and spread faster. And generally in virology, if viruses can spread faster, they're less deadly because their ability to infect new people tends to be better if that person's still living. So when you have that kind of mutation that allows it to spread between people very, very fast, the infectivity rate of SARS-CoV-2 is very high, and you get global pandemics such as this. And it's particularly problematic because the persons that are infectious are asymptomatic. So it's not like with the flu where you know if you have the flu in 48 hours, right? Or Ebola, you know if you have Ebola in that period of time. But with this virus, you can have it for several days and in fact be ill and have or be infected and infectious and have no signs or symptoms whatsoever, and then go and pass it to other people who may be more vulnerable, and then they get sick. So being able to target people that are spreading the virus is much harder to do with this virus than with others, which actually cause people to develop symptoms and get ill.
Okay, so when we were comparing this one to, COVID-1, is it that we have done more RNA sequencing with it? Do we know more about this? Is it that just the nature of the world now? I mean, is it?
I think the two factors are the as you say, the nature of the world now. We're very globalized society, and transportation via planes has been sort of the arteries in which the virus can travel around the world and start spreading to new countries. So as you see, countries that have locked down their borders fastest have been able to deal with this much more effectively, such as Taiwan, New Zealand, and so on. But when you're talking about the actual biology of the virus itself being different to the original SARS, there are some mutations in the spike protein, and this protein is the protein that the virus uses to lock to the cells in your body and gain entry to those host cells. And then once that entry has happened, it then uses that cell to replicate itself. And the distinction here is that the key that the virus has, so to speak, the spike protein, the lock that it fits in is found on many cells within our body. So it has many opportunities for it to actually infect us. And that's part of the reason why it's so much more infectious than other viruses, because the key is quite specific to certain parts of the body. So these locks, so to speak, are found in not just our respiratory tract, but our GI tract and some elements of our nervous system as well. So there are many routes, avenues in which you can be infected by the virus itself. And so I'd say those two reasons are among the biggest as to why this has caused so much of a bigger problem than the original SARS virus.
But then genetically looking at the two viruses, are they similar enough in terms of infectivity and the like, or is this one a little bit more, in layman's terms, high powered? Is this one? Yes.
I would say that this one it seems to be more infectious than the original.
Okay. All right. And then what about like when we look at gene sequencing and the like? We do sort of in vitro samples and trials and like, is there any scientific proof that the RNA sequences in this case for COVID-19 is the causative agent for the COVID-19?
So could you repeat that part, the last part? Is there?
Yeah. No, I was asking if there's any sort of scientific evidence and proof that the sequencing the RNA sequences are actually the causative agent for what we call the COVID-19.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of controversy as to where this virus has come from, and how it came about, how it was so infectious, and so on. There are a lot of different theories involved in that. The one being that it started in a wet market in Wuhan, right out in the outskirts of Wuhan, and the others being that it came from a lab in Wuhan by accident, and so on. And then there's also been a lot of controversy as to which organism it was originally in and how it transferred over to humans, right? So you'll hear big talk about bats or pangolins as being the intermediate species between us and that we got the virus from those species, right? So when you look at the genetic sequences of the virus, you're able to track through time the relatedness between that virus and other viruses in that family. You're able to do that because you can look at the actual differences in the coding of the genetic sequences. So if you have a lot of difference in between COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, and a different virus, you can say that they're less related to one another than a MERS or a SARS, which are very similar, but certain parts of its genetic code are altered. So the more variation you see, when you stack up, it's like a sort of mystery game. Imagine if you just wrote out the letters of the genetic code and you just had them all stacked on top of one another, and you look to see which parts are similar and which parts are dissimilar. The larger the dissimilarity, the further in distance they are from each other, the less related they are to one another. So there's a lot of research that's actually being done globally to look at the different strains of SARS-CoV-2 in particular and see which ones may be more infectious. We're hearing now that out of the scientific community that there's a mutation that's happened in the strain in America to allow it to be more infectious, but not necessarily more deadly. And so that's something that we're going to start investigating, actually, to look at the genetic sequences of positive samples that we get here.
And that is something that, if I could, I love this discussion. I love understanding. Hopefully, it encourage many of our students to consider again the sciences and the lab aspect of it, the forensics and the like. If it's okay, perhaps Ms. Marcia together with you and Martin equally, to have this discussion continuing going forward. Ms. Angela, you and Jonathan to join us at some point to talk about the science of the science and the sequencing. That's what I was asking earlier about the notion of, are we going to collect this data and be able to look at it later on, not just to help inform policy, but to maybe to provide as part of the global input. If you accept this as a loose invitation publicly to come back on and talk more about the work of the lab and the importance of our students engaging in the sciences and looking after the medical research, I would be more than honored, to have that discussion, and you can inspire more of us to pursue careers in this vein.
Yeah, we'd love to take you up on that offer.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I hopefully we'll be able to do that in person so that you can see, how, much in awe I am of being able to engage you in this. As we are mindful of our time, though, could be respectful and maybe ask if you have any closing thoughts, perhaps start in the same order we were initially. If you wish, Miss Angela, you lead us off and then take us through.
Yeah, I think I would like to take this opportunity to just say how thankful all of us in the laboratory are for the coordinated effort from the beginning, from all of the different government agencies that helped us to be able to get off the ground and get the testing going so quickly. We started testing on March 16th, which was probably one of the earliest testing schemes in the world almost, right? So Cayman Islands got off to a roaring start, and we couldn't have done any of that without the external support from the governor's office, from government, from the NEOC. The HSA management team here has been absolutely great about finding and sourcing supplies for us, and as well as just people in the community supporting the laboratory, helping us to secure those PCR kits from South Korea. It's made a tremendous impact in our ability to do the testing for the islands and give the policymakers the information they need to make decisions for all of us here.
Well, we're certainly appreciative of the ongoing efforts and the seemingly almost around the clock work of all the teams, but at HSA in particular. So we are again very much publicly inviting continued discussion, focusing on the science, the lab, the forensics, the sort of analysis to help the physicians and the policymakers as well. Mr. Smelly, if you have perhaps a quick closing thought together with Martin and Marcia, certainly we'd be more than happy to hear.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I have some words to say. First, thank you for being able to give us the ability to speak to the public about this more comprehensively. You know, your questions have been very thoughtful and engaging. It's really nice to be able to speak about something so technical in such a lovely way, like such a relaxed environment.
Well, thank you, man. We try.
And but the kind of on top of that, I would say that we really want to be able to continue to keep up the work that Caymanians and residents have had as a whole to be able to get to the place that we are now with so few people having the virus in the community and just one death, as unfortunate as it is. And to be able to continue to do that, we need more people to come in and be tested, and we need to keep performing tests, because all of the countries that have done very well, they've never stopped their testing platform. And also to expand the range of capability of things that we're able to do to service the population. You know, we're looking into doing the genetic test at the moment to be able to help give some more information to the wider scientific community, but also for the service of people in Cayman, because we'd be able to understand the nature of the virus that we have here in the community. And on top of that, just that people shouldn't feel afraid to come forward and get themselves tested, because every time an individual does that, it gives us a better picture as to real-time situation of the spread of the virus within the community.
Yeah, man. This is the data, you know, this is what I like, and once we have it, so that conversation will continue. Only if you wish, Mr. McKenzie. Any other thoughts from you, sir?
Yes. Just quickly, we're proud to say that our laboratory facilities here at the HSA, which include the forensic lab, the pathology lab, and the lab in the block, we are actually an accredited facility, accredited, and we provide results that we know are accurate, reliable, because we put a lot into it, which include inter-lab comparisons, validations, quality control, proficiency testing, competencies, and all of that. But amidst all of this, we keep our our clients, you know, at the center of what we do. So when we do these kind of tests, we would really like the results to get to the patients, and sometimes we just need to give them a little more information, and we just like to know, let the patients know, or our clients, that they could actually visit our patient portals online and actually access their results. They probably would just need to use their MRN, and if they doesn't have or know how to, they can contact the HSA, and they would guide them in how to, you know, access the portal to access their results, so they could actually see the results directly. And for the IgG, is usually within the same day.
Perfect, man. Well, you know what? This is a conversation. I'll speak to Miss Monique, see if we can set it up again going forward. And Miss Marcia, not because we left you for last that we don't have the same value for you. You know that.
You know, thank you so much, Sterling. I must say thanks to Radio Cayman for always partnering with HSA, and I just want to say thanks to everyone who took partnership in this. It could not be done with just a handful of persons. Everyone had an integral part to play in this. Our government so well coordinated and did such a wonderful job in getting the testing and to get the facilities going that we need to get the public prepared for this pandemic. I'm so happy that here we could see that the deaths, we didn't have deaths. We didn't have persons who were sick so much. We had persons, yes, who came down with some symptoms, but in comparison to the world, we did extremely well. And this could not be done with all the partnerships we've had. Our international partnership with Public Health England brought on by our government, that's excellent. Also our HSA and our medical facilities, our doctors, the public who adhered to what our Premier and our Ministry said, stay home, and we heard every day that persons were trying their best to make sure that they adhere to the, it wasn't such a restriction. I think persons were trying to be safe. And so in doing, we just want to thank everyone for partnering. If that was not the case, then we would not have hit this milestone of, you know, being where we're at. And in going forward, we have to be careful. We have to make sure that we stick to what is advised from the medical team, from each and every one who has partnership in this and is giving evidence-based focus on this. Evidence-based practice is the best thing, and we are here to offer the public this through our testings and through reporting and the cooperation of everyone. Thank you so much for having us also.
Okay, well, thank you all, and I think Jonathan's sentiments, this couldn't have been a discussion as effective and as informative if it weren't for, wonderful guests like you with your knowledge, but also your willingness and ability to convey technical information in such, a very understandable way. So it even made it easy for me. Thank you all, very, very much for that. Continue to be safe and find that your jobs give you a great reward. So all the best to you. Talk to you again very soon. Now, to our listeners, you're most welcome. Tomorrow, join Mr. Art for the record. Come back for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. We have a number of things in store for you, including scheduled discussion relative to the whole idea of, scholarships and the like. That's what's planned. Until tomorrow, my friends, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
After all that talk, sit back, relax. Easy listening on the way. You're listening to Susan on the PM Show, Radio Cayman.